Okay. Are you? This is why I got to do shit like this, because I got to go make a way. Okay. Uh, are you the main character in your life, or are you the main character of your life or everyone else's life? That's the first one. Yeah. So, are you the main? Are you the main character in your life, or everybody else's?
Are you the main character of your life or everybody else's? Well, you're in everybody else's story for sure, but oftentimes are you living a proactive life or a reactive life? I think that's what it comes down to. And
Explain. Proactive, reactive.
reactive is based on that initial like moment of what happened here and we're reacting. There's no real thought to it.
It's
Not
just basic instinct.
basic instinct. And that's a gift or a curse because sometimes the instinct can be safety, but safety can also shield you from growth because growth is scary and uncomfortable. um, but the thing of the matter is that to be a main character is to be somebody who truly takes action to obtain the lifestyle that they want.
Say that one more time.
That
The main character is somebody who takes action
yes,
to obtain the lifestyle that
they
they want.
want.
It made an impact. I remembered it.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that.
And that's the truth of it. You have to take action, and oftentimes life becomes so big and overwhelming that we live a reactive life, and that's why you can feel like you're not a main character because you're just doing things that are coming at you all the time because you have to survive, make a living, pay your bills, pay your rent, have some kind of relation with whoever's close and help bring you up. Like all of those things are important and can feel overwhelming. And if you're not aware and taking action, you can just feel like you're living a very reactive life and like you're not the main character. You're just doing things over and over and over again, just repeating life, just being what you said the other day, NPC.
Yeah, yeah.
An NPC from the movie Free Guy, where it's just like you're not actually living, you're just there. And I think that is the big one of the biggest issues most people have in trying to have a life of fulfillment, let alone success. But it is to take action on things to be that main character. Because here's the truth of the matter is, all the shit's gonna happen. Life is gonna come at you regardless. The difference is the main character, usually in every story you've ever watched, has to overcome all of that shit.
Yeah.
That's every movie, every
Yeah.
story we watch. It's the hero overcoming something.
While everybody else kind of stays still in who they are
And
or declines.
right. I mean, they may grow with you, but their like path of the journey is not the same as yours.
Correct.
And that's kind of the whole point is that you have to take control in order to finally not be that side character to be like, no, this is my life. I'm gonna go take action and do things and make this a better story. Because otherwise there is no story of your life. And life, if it's just comfortable, will never be exciting or fun. It's not living to the fullest.
So, are you somebody who's reactionary or takes action?
Oh man, it's been a bit of both. I think I came into this entertainment world as somebody trying to take action. And I had plans and I had ambition and I had goals and I had big visions. But when life hit me on personal levels,
Yeah.
it took away my ability to think that I was capable of life, not the industry or entertainment. Life hit me so many times in a short amount of time that it had nothing to do with dance or entertainment or any of that at all. It was on personal levels. A relationship ended. I lost my apartment in a matter of time, and I lost my car in a matter of time, and it all was so sudden that I didn't feel capable. I stopped being proactive about everything. I was very
It wasn't
proactive.
capable for life.
Yeah.
Like, if I don't have these things, I am not able to do life.
Right, and then because those things hit was so personal, and I had been so gear focused on pursuing the career that I didn't really learn to survive on my own. So I then fell into another relationship, became very codependent on that, and then that became one of the big issues to overcome, because it's like I was so focused on still being here and being the goal or doing the goal that I really didn't rely on myself to be resourceful and to figure it out and to go ahead and sacrifice and take on whichever thing that really needed to be taken on so that I can learn to do it on my own. I became very reactionary and very hindered from it, because I ended up hiding all the time from them. Each kind of failed relationship has put me more and more on a reactionary side, because, you know, I think
it's a blow to your confidence.
it's a huge blow to the confidence. You really don't ever learn how to get over and deal with heartbreak. And what people don't tell you about whatever industry that you're in is that when you're dating in that industry or that work life, not only does it affect you, it's when it's such a small community, and a community that's entertainment specifically driven, that the morals are kind of lower, and you're also at the time that everyone's trying to find themselves, so everybody's trying to get to know another person, this and that, and you have many friends, so it can feel very messy in the aftermath of a breakup, dealing with, oh, who are they talking to now, or are they talking to this friend or this friend, like, especially when you had close friends, everybody was close friends in that group. When you're in such a community and everybody knows each other, it gets really awkward and uncomfortable when everybody's trying to move on and experience life and just do these things, and you don't know how to deal with that. You don't know who's authentic, who's genuine, who's a good person. You don't know if you can really trust who, because at some point, especially in this entertainment world, like, I'm sure
I don't know if it's just entertainment.
I don't want to say I just say that I feel like it's heightened in the entertainment world.
I think it's for everybody, right? I think that once you graduate high school, once you graduate college, if you go to college, once you get into life, your community changes, one, with a bunch of strangers, and two, gets extremely small.
Yes, but that is also to the point of you understanding and being the main character of your life, of where you put yourself, your environment. If you're going to churches and you're putting yourself in coffee shops as opposed to clubs and bars and meeting people when you're going out and doing drugs, those are two very different environments.
Come on.
And the entertainment world is very heavy on party and play.
I don't want to just leave it at entertainment.
You're right.
Because I think that
it is a life thing.
We live now in a society that emulates entertainment. So because it emulates entertainment, I think that I'm just trying to open it up to a wider spectrum than just entertainment, because people are entertainers everywhere. If you got 100,000 followers in Wichita, Kansas, you the man in Wichita.
Right. And it's still the same problem. It's still the same problems.
Yeah.
It's still the same problems. The learning and growing of figuring out what your values are and understanding the differences between attention and love and investments and the different types of connections that you make with people, they're all a learning process in which you're never taught in school or never really discussed in school, how to handle emotions, what emotions you're going to deal with. Like, even if somebody did tell you the things you're going to deal with, you really don't understand it until you go through it.
Yeah.
And it's in those moments of going through it that you understand what your reactions are to those things. And I think that becomes where everyone becomes a side character as opposed to the main character, is that life will knock us down, be overwhelming, trigger us in all these different kind of ways. And we are so unaware of how we behave
in those actions,
in those moments, in that behavior, in that mode, that we just do the thing that makes us feel better. And that's why people live a life where not only do they feel like they're a side character, but they're a side character stuck in a cycle. It's always the same things. You wake up, go to work, do the work, come home, try to relax, unpack it all, take a drink, take a smoke, maybe go socialize. Like it then becomes the same cycle because we're living for trying to feel comfortable rather than living a life of I want fulfillment and meaning.
You know what's interesting about what you just said? You said we have to be aware of who we are in those moments when we're reacting.
Yes.
So what's interesting about that is I think in my journey, I got very aware of how I was perceived in those moments. Yeah? So because I got very aware of how I was perceived, I changed my action in those moments. Where I went wrong was the action that I changed to was to please people. Because it was how I was being perceived.
Okay.
I think I needed to learn to fall in love with that dog in me. Yeah. That person that's like, nah, I'm finna, you feel me? Like, I'm finna say what I gotta say, do what I gotta do, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I had to fall in love with the person to understand what makes him tick.
Yeah.
In order for me to stand, be aware in those moments, and know that what I'm saying isn't to please people in front of me, but instead
How you genuinely feel.
how I genuinely feel, and I'm okay with the repercussions that come after I say this. Yeah. I think that I'm still learning to be okay with that.
I think the balance then becomes in those situations is understanding what the boundaries are and how to communicate the boundaries.
But
now,
what are the boundaries? Like, I don't know, bro.
No, but that's
like,
the thing. That's the
every
thing.
human you come against, I don't know your boundaries.
You really don't know the boundaries until A, one, they're tested, and B, where you can take note and be aware of it. Now, again, the hard part
But
is
even
that,
with that, bro, like, I got mine too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when does somebody else's boundaries become something that I'm not looking to disrespect you, but this boundary is in the way of mine?
It's communication, and it's all also, this is all context based on where you're at in the space. If it's a professional work environment, those are the environments that you kind of have to stand up a little bit more, put the chest out, and say no when you really mean no. You know, in relationships, it's based on the context of the person and what's going on. But it's, at the end of the day, is like you, as long as you don't live your life where you're feeling your boundaries are constantly being the one that's stepped on. Because even if you're compromising
that's why
for them,
I lived for a very
right?
long time.
Because you were compromising for them, and
Because
then you were getting stepped on.
Because you feel like
where
you think you feel like a piece of shit when
Right.
people perceive you wrong, until you start being the good guy, and then you actually feel like a piece of shit, because the good guy just makes the people in front of them happy,
Right.
and then you truly feel like a piece of shit because you disconnect yourself from you.
Right.
So like,
Yeah.
which piece of shit is a better piece of shit to live with?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna either feel like a piece of shit for being yourself, or you're gonna feel like being a piece of shit, or you're gonna feel like a piece of shit because you're not being yourself. But you can't. I think moral of the story is you gotta love yourself so much that you know that who you're being isn't a piece of shit, regardless of how somebody else perceives you.
Right. You can't be a people pleaser to the point where you're not happy with what you're doing. Like, life is meant to be more of service, and I think a lot of people would agree that they find fulfillment in service, but not to the point where it's like you are being stepped on, disrespected, and the boundaries are crossed. Like,
Hell yeah.
you know, it has to be mutually beneficial.
And even if it's not mutually beneficial, like, it don't gotta equal out. You know what I mean? 60-40 is fine. It don't gotta equal, like, it.
No, you're right.
Sometimes
Some sacrifice is not the same for everybody.
Sometimes I've been somebody's learning lesson,
Yeah.
and known that I'm their learning lesson while I'm in it. Yeah.
That's good.
So it doesn't piss me off.
Yeah.
Because I know that they are at the space in their life
Right.
where they are learning or they are growing.
Right.
Yeah. So like, if I got to be the lesson, hopefully later, I get to tell you how it actually made me feel. Yeah,
Right,
I've been
right.
in those, but then that typically the later, I'm still waiting on a lot of laters. Yeah, I'm still waiting on a lot of laters.
It's a long journey. It'd be a long journey. But I mean, amongst that, I do think it's like, it all comes down. Man, I feel like the principles are all the same, and it's almost on every book in personal development. It's like the awareness and being proactive, and that's on a lot of things. Being aware of how you feel, because here's the truth of the matter is, I said this a while ago while I was going through kind of like a whole episode. I was like aware of the episode, of the frustration and the anger and just overwhelming, just life feel like shattering. And I was like, I'm aware of this, but I was so upset that I didn't know how to utilize it. And I'm like, you know, I can go to the gym and we can push out the steam, but I guess when you're struggling financially,
that steam don't go away.
yeah, when you do something physical, it doesn't feel like it leads to progress in the career. But where I was so frustrated,
Ooh, can I question that?
What I was so frustrated is that I was in frustration. I don't know how to utilize that productively because I thrive better in creative, collaborative environments.
Yeah.
I know I can deal with creative pressure, but when all of that is happening, I'm like, well, what do I go do? Like, I am a creator, but what does a creator go do to make money when you don't have anybody asking for the things you create?
Work.
Right, you have to go get the job and go do the work. But that was where it was such a hardship for me, because it was like, it felt like a backward step from being a guy where solely was able to survive off doing this one thing for a moment. And that's all ego. That's my perspective of it being like a backward step. Mm-hmm. And me having to learn that I have to do all the work regardless. Like, there's legwork to be done in whatever field, industry you're doing. Like, even doing this to create something consistently is the legwork.
Correct.
And it's like a matter of doing it. So it's the hard part was like, man, I'm aware, but in the moment I don't know what to do about it. And that, I think, it can be the hardest part for a lot of people, is because it's like, to what you were saying earlier, like, all progress is good. Yes, but again, it's like, if you know where you're aiming that energy towards, and if it actually feels like progress. That's why sometimes it felt like so annoying for me, is that it didn't feel like I was aiming this energy towards anything.
When you aim, the wind blow, right?
When you aim a wind blower?
The wind blow, right?
Yeah.
You aim, the wind blow.
Yeah.
So even if you aim and you think you're on target, sometimes that wind blow. And when that wind blow, the bullet sway a bit and you off target, right?
Right.
The goal is to start to control the wind, right?
Or to, I guess, not control it, but to be aware of it, and then
so like
to readjust.
Right now, that wind is like in a moment, or for me, right now the wind is blowing for me to step back. I've been in survival mode my whole life. Go, 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 and it don't. You end up wasting money because you're not still. Yeah,
Right.
You end up burning bridges because you're not still. You end up falling into negative spaces of self because you're not still. Yeah, and like, how do you have gratitude if you always on the go, right? So what I was doing was, but I'm aiming for this, I'm aiming for this, I'm aiming for this. So I got to do the work, I got to do the work, I got to do the work.
Right.
Problem is, I wasn't taking into account the win factor, right? And that win factor is what you're talking about when you say step back. Yep. Yeah, that's your wind pushing you into a different direction. But at the end of the day, you don't know what next gust of wind comes that puts you right back on track because of whatever took place over here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like,
I guess that's the important lesson to it, though, is to remember that in those moments, it's okay to not have a moment of clarity. Because I think what bothered me so much about it is, I kept saying, and I think I've even mentioned this before, is that it felt like I was such at a loss of clarity, and not having clarity about what you're trying to do or what you want to do really can throw off the whole vision. Because if you don't know where to
believe that is mandatory, necessary, and going to be relived over and over? I do.
Say the question again.
Do you believe that that's like mandatory, necessary, and will be relived? Okay, let me say that again. Do you believe that not being clear on where you're going or what the vision is mandatory, necessary, and will happen over and over in your life?
I think I think having a vision is a mandatory, necessary thing. I think it is imperative to understand that clarity can be lost and it can evolve. I think the idea is to try to seek clarity and in the moments be still. Understand that the emotion will pass. do what you need to do constructively to allow yourself to get through the emotion. So at least for myself, I didn't get fucked up. I didn't go drink. I didn't do any other crazy thing that I'm sure I really did have an impulse and urge to do. And I think I just ended up taking a walk. My girlfriend joined me and just took a walk. And sometimes it takes pulling yourself back, being still, getting out of the head and the emotions, because that overwhelming feeling of like, I need to figure this out, put in survival mode. Everything is a double-edged sword, and it's a gift or a curse depending on which way you're leaning it. You have to be aware that leaning in any one way is dangerous to something, whether yourself or to another individual. You have to learn to
balance.
Yeah.
Balance.
I was trying to find another metaphor in there.
Because
Balance. Yes.
So I had a conversation with Anton Collier the other day, and he asked me like what it is that I was trying to do. Like, where are you trying to go? What you want to do?
Right.
Like, you know that I want to do a bunch of different things, right? I think my biggest downfall is also what has built me, right? So my biggest downfall is I got out here and I said, I'm going to go be a professional dancer, and I did that.
Right.
And as I did that, I just dived deeper and deeper into what that is, not necessarily working the business side of that world.
Right.
Yes.
Right. You were just living in it, involved in it, but not
Correct.
aware of.
I was aware.
Okay.
But that's where I stayed.
Gotcha.
I stayed at aware, right?
Yeah.
Like, I would sit back and I would watch the managers talk to such and such, and I would watch the wardrobe people discuss this, and I would figure out who's family, who's friend, who's important, who isn't. So I really tried to like figure out the structures.
Yeah.
Yeah, why is that person here all the time? Why is that person here kind of? Yeah.
Right.
Oh, the relationship to this. Why is the relationship? Okay, this person is married to such and such, and that's that business play.
Right.
Or this person works at that situation, so them working together makes both of them this amount of money. Yeah, so I realized why people were connected and what they were, and I understood that, like, I understood how that business was. Because I wanted to do so many things that wasn't just being a dancer, I didn't know how to build the relationship. Because I'm building it as a dancer.
Right.
You know me as this.
Right.
You've seen this talent. And as time goes on, you get more and more discouraged from what you used to just go out and do. And I think I got discouraged not because I didn't have the ability to do so, but because every day I was waking up, I was going on to big ass sets. So I'm seeing all of these cameras and all of these lights and all of this cool shit. And then I come home and it's like, yeah, bro, but like, you're not even a sliver of what all that is when it comes to what you can do right here at home. Yeah, it's how I thought.
Right.
Doesn't mean that's how it is.
Right.
It's how I thought.
Right.
Yeah.
Perspective.
So exactly. So that pushed me into a negative space on the way that I viewed self. And I can't say it did. I have to say I did.
Right.
Yes, because that was my mind, my way of thinking.
Because that's how you viewed it when you came back home.
Boom. So because that's how I viewed it when I came back home, I lost respect for myself. So I made me lose respect for myself through that, but it built me because then I had to go on a journey on how do I respect myself again.
Right.
Yes. And all the while I never gave up on the fact that I wanted to do these other things. Right. I worked on different aspects in them. Now I know how to edit. Am I the most phenomenal? No. Can I do more than most? Yeah. You know what I mean? Right. I know how to shoot. Does that mean I know the camera through and through? Nah. But can I take it and get the shots that I would like? Absolutely. Which means I can then articulate what kind of shot I would like from somebody who does know the camera well. You know what I mean? Or spend time to learn it better. Yeah. Do I know how to set up lighting properly in every situation? No, there is no properly, right? There's structure to a few different setups, but everything else is create your mood. Right. Yeah, never knew that. You know what I mean? So do I know how to write? Absolutely. Is everything going to be in perfect script format? Hell nah. Am I going to have the perfect dialogue between characters? Absolutely not. But is that story good?
Right.
Yeah?
Right.
Can it be better? Hey, collaboration is always the way to go. You know what I mean? So yes, it can be better. I'm not dead set on this my baby, this my heart, this my this. Here's the skeleton. Let's put some meat on it. So I think...
So that's an important thing, though, to differentiate with vision, is to understand that, you need to have a vision, start with a vision, but that the vision can change, and to know when to be open to adapting the vision and when it must stay clear.
Mm-hmm.
Because that becomes a battle for a lot of people. It was like, well, if it doesn't fit the vision, if this isn't exactly how I pictured it and envisioned it to be, then it's garbage, it's bad, it shouldn't be shared, it shouldn't go out. And both have the space to be true. You can strive towards something and be like, and feel in your heart, you know what, this thing that we did, it just wasn't it. It just wasn't it. That doesn't mean the vision is dead. That means you get to try again and try it differently.
Yeah.
That's where you got to get past that first blockade of like, oh, the vision didn't work out, and then we try again to see, okay, now this fits right. I just needed the right person in order to deliver these lines, and it fits. You know when to have to stick to the vision, and then know when to adapt the vision.
And I think that lack of respect that I created for myself while all of that was going on was my fog.
Yeah,
that was
lack
where
of
I
respect
lost
is
clarity.
huge, and that's why I think even go back to my issue earlier before of like dealing with the hard emotional issues. You never really asked what are the things that make you respect you.
Correct.
And the
But
truth of the matter
do
is,
we even ask ourselves if we respect us?
well, exactly. But the thing is, we don't even know what that is for us. Again, it's like a trigger. You don't know what the trigger is until it happens.
Correct.
You don't necessarily.
And then sometimes you don't even fucking hear the trigger go off.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my God! How many times is it's a silent alarm? It's just the trigger just went off. You're like, I don't even know what the fuck it was.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's when people go off about energy. When it's like you're not even aware of what the person is saying, but you're mad at the energy. The energy is the trigger, but the respect of the trigger.
Say that again.
The energy is a trigger.
But why?
Because energy is all empowering, that it can force you to not focus on what is being saying, but
instead how they're saying it.
Exactly.
Fuck. That's my big. That's a big issue for me. Big issue for me. It's always the way you deliver things. Hey, you know what I mean?
Right.
Get to know my heart.
Yeah.
How about the fuck that?
Right.
But I got to work on it if I want to get results, right? And I've worked on it, but then I teeter and totter on, am I being a people pleaser or am I just naturally being myself? Because sometimes I don't have the energy to make sure it's wrapped up nice in a fucking pretty bow.
I think the unfortunate thing is that you run into a lot is that you get a lot of people with really entitled egos, because I do think that when you speak your authentically self, whether it be aggressive or not, because I know who you are and because you convey yourself, it never comes off in any kind of negative, disrespectful way.
But you know me.
Right, but you've allowed conversation and communication with me, in which case you're even in how you're expressing yourself, it's never geared at me.
Yeah.
And I think that's at least what I've been able to feel from you, because I do know that that's another thing that most people don't know how to deal with, is when the energy comes at them, they don't know.
Because they think it's personal.
They think it's personal.
Because they just created themselves to be the main character in my life. That's
how they played it. Yeah. Yeah.
And they're not.
They're not. Exactly.
Yeah. And I think that's why.
And learning to respect that. It's learning to, like, again, you respect. Oh my God, this is why everything always comes back down to awareness, because it's awareness of what your lines and limits and boundaries and goals and the things that you respect about yourself, and to learn to be respectful of others as they figure out theirs. Now, ideally, if two people can communicate properly and not make it personal, then you have real moments of growth where people will be like, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah. Oh, I was totally in my fucking feelings and understanding that.
Because let's keep it a buck, right? Like, depending on where you are from in the world, you're going to communicate different. Like, if you're from Russia, you're going to come off way more brash than somebody from Canada.
I mean, case in point, you and I are from the opposite ends of the 707.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very different upbringings.
Yeah.
From how you grew up versus how I grew up.
Yeah.
Like, completely.
Yeah.
And we're the same area code.
Yeah.
Like, literally, like, you're on the far end of it.
I think that we're privileged in being from the Bay Area, because that is our ecosystem.
Yes.
As to where most people not from no ecosystem like that.
No.
So I think that because in the Bay Area at least, respect is shown different than like in Los Angeles for damn sure, right? Like in the Bay
Yeah.
Area, somebody step on your shoe, my fault. You know what I mean? Here, people so worried about stunting and being the man that they disrespect.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Absolutely.
And I think early on, I used to take that disrespect and create conflict with it.
Yeah. Oh, for
Because
sure. Yeah.
you disrespecting me,
Yeah.
but then I'm the one that looked disrespectful. Because everybody moved like that. I'm the only one moving like me.
Right. Right.
So I'm the bad guy because I reacted, being reactionary, as you said, to this level of what I perceived as disrespect.
Right.
But in reality, it's their insecurity being pushed upon me because they just fucked up and they know they fucked up, but they don't want to be wrong.
Right. Exactly. And then you make this whole story up in your head
about how they think of me.
Exactly. And more often than not, the other person really isn't even thinking of you.
Because I made myself the main character in their life when I should have been the main character in my life.
Which is, kind of ironic that you say it, because now that I think about it, it's so interesting to think how often we make ourselves a main character in someone else's life, but we're a side character in our own life. Because it's such a play, because a lot of people, I mean, I'm sure I do that too. I do that all the fucking time, even when I think about relationships or my current relationship, where it's like I think that they should be thinking of me all the time.
But don't we do it from a young age? Like I remember being kids and looking at the Rugrats and being like, "Oh, I'm Tommy," or "I'm Phil," or "I'm Lil," or "I'm this," or "I'm that," or "Oh, I'm Ickis from motherfucking All Real Monsters," right? Like, you know what I mean? Like
All Real Monsters, yes.
So we're always putting ourselves in a position to be the main character of something that isn't even our own life.
Yeah.
Like, who's your favorite basketball player? You're going to say whoever the main player is of that team. Who's your favorite football player? The main player of that team. Right? Like, when you play a video game, who do you play as? The main character of the video game. So we're kind of conditioned to always want to be the main character elsewhere. And then come back into our life and be like, That's why there's vacations. That's why people that's why people gamble. That's why they drink. They do drugs.
They have happy hour. Escapism. That goes back into this what we talked about earlier about being in the cycle and why you're stuck in that cycle and being that side character, is that you're being reactionary because life is coming at you and you're in survival mode so much that you don't take the time to think about the moves anymore. You're not planning of progress. You're just, how do I do this? Like, how do I just pay rent?
How do you move if you how do you move if you ain't never been taught to move?
Well, right. That becomes the big component of what education is, and that's that's a whole nother debate. I hate, like, I can, as much as I love education, I've learned that I love learning. However, school education doesn't teach you how to learn and how to handle certain things. They teach you like arithmetic and factual things, which is necessary. It is a necessary component.
When we was in school, there was like no calculators because you're not going to be able to use a calculator in the regular world.
Right.
We got AI,
and then the fucking cell phones.
We
came
have
out.
AI, and you're not going to be able to do this in the real world. You weren't able to do it in the real world.
Perfect example is, I could repeat the quadratic formula or the Pythagorean theorem, and it wouldn't matter because no one uses it. We don't use it, but that is still more of a focus in schools than understanding your taxes, than understanding what the Fed does, like the Federal Reserve, how to own a business, LLC. Like, we don't teach really economics.
But they can't teach us that.
Well,
they can't teach us that, bro, because if they teach us that, then
we would have all free thinkers, and then there's no one to control.
It's not even about free thinking. It's about, at the end of the day, are people wanting to be rich because they like money or because they want power? So if it's about power, they always got to have somebody to have it over. So why would I give you the tools that you can then stand on the same platform or get above me? I won't.
Right. Well, so
it's not even about I want to keep you poor. It's more so I just like having power over.
Right. Yeah. That is the big structural system that you have to go up against.
Correct. And that's like, think about a police officer, right? Like, the hard part about being a cop is you don't get paid well, right? So you go out and you put your life on the line and you risk it all for communities that don't like you, and then you don't get paid well. But they can't pay them well, because if they did pay them well, the moment that something happened that they was not in alignment with, they'd be out of there. But they pay them just enough to keep them for the duration of their sentence, yeah, for them to get their 401k, retirement, or whatever the case may be.
Yes.
But it is literally a sentence.
Yes.
They are just as incarcerated as somebody who's incarcerated. The difference is they have the freedom to kill people. They have the freedom to do all kinds of negative things.
Right.
That's the difference.
But this is why it's so important to be the main character of your own life and to find balance, because that shit's gonna happen. That is life,
regardless of anything.
And replace police officer with whatever other
Baker,
job
or fireman, or
anything
pediatric.
that takes your time, that doesn't feel like it fulfills your soul and gives you life.
You have a sentence.
Right, it drains you. Like that is what this survival mode is. But again, to be the main character and to find that balance and fulfillment in your life, you have to be proactive and take steps. And taking steps also means becoming aware, learning how to control those things, learning to say no, learning to pull yourself away from them, to change the habits. Like, people wonder why their life is so bad. It's like, you look at your habits first. Like, if you're not getting actual good sleep, if you're not eating actual good food, and I mean real food, not the processed food that we're normally eating. And now it feels strange at first because it's different, because you're conditioned to bad. But if you be proactive, that's when you can learn to take take that life sentence and turn it in your favor, because we have to survive. We really do.
You know what sucks is those are two things that I am conscious of and not practicing in its fullest.
I think that's I feel like that's a big issue for a lot of people.
I feel like diet and sleep are the two things that I neglect the most.
I be about my sleep, but that doesn't mean I get sleep. That doesn't mean I rest well.
Correct.
But
I go to sleep.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that I'm like
resting. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the question is, are you lonely, or are you afraid of being alone? Yeah, I believe, in my personal belief, you first have to be okay with being alone before you can even figure out if you're lonely. Yeah? Now, I say that because you can say, I'm lonely. In reality, it's more so you're afraid of who you are by yourself. Whether that be because when you do get alone, you have a porn addiction, or when you do get alone, you smoke too much, or you do drugs, or you drink, or you just have to sit with the fact that maybe you don't really love yourself. Right. Yeah, whether it be you find yourself unattractive, or your finances aren't where they're supposed to be, so you beat yourself up, or I don't know, you don't have genuine friends, so like you beat yourself up and you want to question self on like, well, why can't you have friends? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
There's so many things that can make you afraid of being alone, and I think because we live, I believe because we live in such a society nowadays that like everything is in front of you. Mm-hmm. Flash lights in front of you, in front of you, in front of you, in front of you, in front of you. Yeah, like back in the day, people would get on YouTube and watch long videos. The clips got shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter, right, because our attention span is shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. Yeah, that's how quick we're ready to move on to the next and not be alone. Move. Go, mind to mind. And I believe I did not understand what lonely was until I first spent time adjusting to being okay with sitting with me.
Right.
Yeah?
I think that's where the subtle nuance between solitude and isolation is. Because in solitude is you learning to be okay with yourself, and that's the recharge. That's those when introverts like their alone time. That's solitude. In the isolation, I think the isolation is fear-based.
Okay. Can I challenge you?
Yes.
So, when you say that,
Uh-huh.
I believe that you first have to isolate yourself to be able to figure out how to have solitude. And then from there, once you have your solitude, you have to question yourself after a while, am I isolating myself?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then you get isolated out of comfort. So I think that
Yeah.
isolation shows you when you need to go be alone, and isolation shows you when you need to go be around people. It's up to you to have the discernment
Yeah.
of where you are at the current
Yes.
moment
Yes.
in order for you to know what this isolation is doing
Yes.
for or against you.
Yes. Because here's the other truth and the paradox of it all. Isolation, like a broken bone, heals. A bone heals in the cast when it's isolated. It's not used. But what happens when the cast is removed? The bone is weak.
Yeah.
There's no strength to it.
Yeah.
It needs to be used in order for there to be strength.
Yes.
So the isolation is necessary. You do have to isolate. You have to sit with yourself, reflect. But you do have to go out and deal with people in order to strengthen your own beliefs about yourself, about the world, your skill sets. Like, there's no... there's healing in isolation, but there's not as much strength in isolation. But the point of the fact is isolation is still necessary.
Because, okay, we're talking about bones and strength, weakness, and I 100% agree with isolation. There's healing there, right? Like if I want, so I sprained my ankle, so I should isolate and work on that space intentionally. Yeah. Now, when I want to build strength, right? I need more of a full body joint, right? Like instead of just isolating this left quad, I should do stuff that's going to make the quad work with the hamstring, with the core.
Yes.
So I think that is when you go out with people, right? So once I want to isolate the quad, I got to go and get the glute. I got to go get the ab. That's going around people.
I love that you say this because this morning I also just had the thought randomly, I think when I was leaving the gym, the difference I think in that with like solitude and with people is that in the sense of what we're looking for is peace and harmony.
Mm-hmm.
You want to have peace with yourself and hope obviously that others have peace with themselves, but that when you bring that peace over, that it brings harmony to the situation. And what you're talking about is about that working in harmony with the rest of your body, because you have to you need to use the muscle along with this and with this to do the full range of motion to get the whole thing. It's all working together in harmony.
Yes.
A symbiotic relationship.
Which means you have to figure out what workout to do, which also means what environment to go to when you're talking about like being a human.
And that comes back to awareness and proactiveness.
Boom. I also think there's a trick there, right? In what you just said, there's a trick there, right? So like, let's say I am in my solitude. And then I feel like this is real in my life right now, right? Like I was in my solitude. I moved to Long Beach for a year. I was in my solitude. I found myself saying, I can make this work, right? I found myself saying, like, if I make this move and that move, I can make this work. Yeah. And then I started to think like, I can make this work. I'll be bringing in money from this or that. And then I can find me a girlfriend. We can get a little puppy and we can live.
Right.
By the beach.
Yeah.
But bro, that sounds like such a trash existence. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, ironically, that depends on who you ask. But
for me,
yes,
me, it sounds like like that's where I would like to be. Nonetheless, that's not all that's gonna sustain me. No. So I think that I found myself being in solitude, trying to convince myself to find comfort in what then became isolation. Right. So then I decided, forget this. I'm moving. So I had dinner with RJ and Antoine. RJ Kyler, Antoine Collier. That way people know RJ and Antoine. When I talk about RJ and Antoine, that's what I'm talking about. Right. Because you guys will hear my content. I'm just saying this for life. Yeah. But you guys will hear my content. I'll talk about them a lot. And then one day we'll have to sit down and chat. So I had dinner with RJ, Antoine, and my mom. Yeah. And RJ's girlfriend. And this was right around 4th of July. Yeah, right around 4th of July. And in that moment, I was like, damn, man, I miss having friends.
Right.
I miss having friends. And not like I miss being around people. I miss having friends.
Right.
So
Right.
then I moved back here to Hollywood because it was like, all right, don't be in your isolation. Now I think that the balancing act that I'm in, which is the trick that's there, right, is when I do go out, am I feeling isolated when I'm out? If I do, it's time to just go to do work.
Yep.
Like, go do
Yep.
work.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So
Yep.
I started to go out
Yep.
a little bit, and I felt isolated when I was out.
Because I think that's what lonely is and lonely feels is when you're in a group specifically, you're out with people doing something, surrounded, and you feel isolated.
Yeah.
That is feeling lonely.
So what I would do in the past is try to find a girlfriend.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Finding the girlfriend just led me into relationships.
Right.
Or situationships or whatever the case may be. Now what I've realized is that space is not supposed to be taken up by me finding a girlfriend. She's not the cure-all.
No.
Yeah. It's me needing to do more work at what I want to go be in this world. Yeah. Now, back to isolation and solitude, right? In order for me to have a clear-cut vision, that's going to take solitude. In order for me to get solitude, it's going to take isolation.
Yeah.
So I moved back to Hollywood thinking I want to go be around people.
Right.
Just to realize, no, I wanted to go be back around where I can make stuff happen. And now it's time for me to find solitude in that space in order for me to do the work that I want to be doing.
Right.
And once I'm doing the work I want to be doing, I can then step back out into the world, and then I actually have something to talk to people about.
And find the right people who attract to what you're trying to create and what you're trying to build.
Absolutely. But that's like when you walk out of the house and all you are is who you are, but not like you don't represent anything, especially in this city. What do you talk to people about?
Right.
Yeah, like, what do you talk to people about? So I have to have something that is of me. Yeah,
Right.
Especially if I like to create, if I want to be a creator, if I want to help individuals, if I want to pour into people, this is a perfect opportunity here to start that creating process.
Right.
Yeah, so isolate, find your space, build your solitude by doing work. Yeah.
Right.
Solitude for me now isn't about me needing to heal these wounds. Like, I have a lot of very therapeutic processes that I go into to heal my wounds, and I want to get into therapy. That'll be a later episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Nonetheless, right now, I think where I really need to do healing is how I feel about myself when it comes to my creativity, how I feel about myself when it comes to the way that I move, the way that I create my ideas.
Yeah.
I think now I have a lot of psychological healing on how I view myself in this world, how I want to present myself in this world, what I want to achieve in this world, what do I want to obtain in this world, what do I want to leave behind in this world. And I think that now I'm at that space currently in my life.
Man, it's such a journey to get to that space.
And that was a lot of isolation, solitude, back to isolation, just to realize, ooh, I need solitude, so I got to get isolated again. And it's like isolation is a gift and a curse, I think.
Absolutely.
But I think it only becomes a gift and a gift once you're okay with being alone.
Correct.
It is a curse when you're not.
Well, it can be a curse on if it leans too far of you being okay being alone, is that you're so okay being alone that you don't bother, that you become inept to deal with conflict or other people. Like,
But does that make you okay with being alone?
well, some people say that they're okay with that. But you know what? To your point, are they actually sitting by themselves in quiet, in thought, reflective, or being in retrospective? No,
Or
not
are
at
they
all.
like, let me
They're
turn
all-
on the TV and
they're
eat
all
these bonbons?
they're
and
always
blah, blah,
watching.
blah.
Yeah, they're always watching Netflix.
Bro, me right now.
Yeah,
Bro, me right now. I'm not going to sit here and lie. Me right now. Trying to get back into my creative space. And I know that
Right.
this is a part of the isolation process. I know that I've been here time and time before, and I know the isolation process typically goes, force yourself to be in the house so you find stuff. Once you're done with that stuff, you dive into you. Yeah? And that's where I'm at. Now I'm diving into me, but I had to get done with the stuff. You know what I mean? All of the things that can pull my attention. I literally wrote on my phone the other day and put as like my screensaver, you have to get serious. It's time to stop doing what hurts you, and you know what hurts you.
What do you mean by what hurts you?
There's so many things that hurt us.
Oh, you're talking
Right.
about like destructively,
Whether it be masturbation, whether it be watching things that send me down a space of temptation, whether it be drinking alcohol, whether it be even smoking. I want to like, okay, let me regulate smoking better. Yeah, whether it be like this morning, I woke up and I was groggy, and I was like, fuck, I don't want to be groggy, but I took like 2 edibles and I smoked, and you know what I mean? Like, it put me in a space where I had to wake up from. Yeah. And that is the hard thing too, because I enjoy those times and I enjoy the therapy.
And
but
that's the hard thing of understanding of the things that you're doing as your coping mechanism are not the things that are best for you.
boom.
You have to do things that are, better for you constructively. And absolutely right, for sure. I mean, all of that drains time, energy, and then we wonder why we don't have any of that
In our life.
energy to put into effort and into the other things. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. I think as men, I think that being alone is the greatest gift we could have. I think that almost
But alone and accountable, because again, what we're talking about is that alone in that sense of where we're reflecting and that we're getting to know each other. There's a lot of people that just sit alone to be alone.
as men, it's a man quality to be able to sit there and like, when we're talking about the gender of male, yeah, we're talking about the male species, whatever the fuck I need to say to not be in trouble for saying man. Yeah. So when I only purely talk about man, I'm not talking about anything else.
Yeah.
It's boyish to not reflect. It is the quality of a man to reflect. So as men, the greatest gift you can have is be alone. As boys, one of the hardest things to do is learn how to be okay being alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
absolutely.
I think that that's a big thing that a lot of young men should ask themselves. Before you run out into the world talking about how grown you are, regardless of the experiences you've been through, you first have to ask yourself if you're okay with being alone. If you are okay with being alone, that's the quality of a man. That doesn't mean that all of the aspects in your life are that of a man. It means that you're good there, and now it's time to create that in a new space. Yeah, but if you're still unokay with being alone, and you're afraid to be alone, or you feel like you need these attachments and this, that, and the other, that's not the quality of a man. It's the quality of a boy. I need a group, I need a group, I need a group. A man will be able to walk into a room by himself and be who he wants to be. Yeah? Doesn't mean he's able to be who he needs to be, but he is able to be who he wants to be. Yeah? He just has to want to be the guy he needs. Yeah?
Right.
Yeah?
Right.
I don't always want to be the guy I need. The guy I need is a little bit more, you feel me? And sometimes when I'm out, I don't want to be that. I'm cool. I don't want to be that. I don't really want to get to know nobody. But I also think it's because I'm not living fully in what I want to do in my life. Like, once I start living in what I want to do in my life, I got something to talk to y'all about and tell them, blood, like, I'm not, like, why I need to know you.
Right. What are we chatting about?
You know, so I can have another phone number of somebody who's doing something else in my life that, like, ain't actually in my life. Now I'm good. Like, I get that that's how you make connections and this, that, and the other. But until I'm ready to, you feel me, say, hey, this is what I'm doing, I think that I'd rather just continue observing and just be there, and whoever want to chit-chat, let's chit-chat. You dig? That's where I'm at. And I question that every time I step out of the house to go somewhere. Who do you want to be tonight? Do you want to try to be that guy? Is that something that you refer back to because it's who you've been? Or is that like who you became in order to fit in?
Right.
But in reality, I just want to be okay with standing out. And sometimes being quiet in the corner, I just want to be quiet in the corner. But it draws attention, because why is that guy in the corner quiet? So then I end up poking out anyway. So am I really doing myself a disservice? You saw me. My energy was felt. So when I drop hot shit, you'll be like, I've seen this person before. So did it do me a disservice, or should I just continue being who I want to be? That's one of the questions I have in my life.
Right.
I don't know. Nobody taught me how to move. through here, like I see a bunch of people moving and like making shit happen for themselves, and yeah, they making money plays, and yeah, they moving up the ladder of this, that, and the other, but they hella unhappy, and like I moved up a ladder already, and I did that already, and I'm happy with what took place in that journey. Yeah,
Right.
I think uh, I miss teamwork. Yeah, you're on a group of with dance, but I miss teamwork. Yeah, like I
Right.
come from football, right? That's what
Right.
I played
Yeah.
growing up. I
Yeah.
played football growing up.
It's a team.
Teamwork, we're like, nah, my brother got me on the other side of the field.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Everyone plays a role. Everyone plays their part.
there go the ball, and all of us are going after it. Yeah, there go the goal, and we all running behind whoever got the ball to make sure can't nobody touch that person. That is a team, and I miss that. So I think that where I'm at in my life now is creating a level of happiness, building a team around me in which we can all do that for each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if you got the ball, I want to be right there behind you, shoving people so they can't get you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I just want you focused forward.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm gonna shove whoever I need to shove, and we gonna get there. Yeah. If I got the ball, I want the same respect. If somebody's coming at us and we gotta take an opportunity, hey, you go high, I go low. Is it illegal? Yup. You know what I mean?
Teamwork.
Hey, teamwork. Yeah. You got to take the things you want in this world, and you can't do it without a team. And I think that what my vision is right now is that.
Yeah.
I don't have a vision of like this specific show needs to be on TV, or this specific movie needs to be made, or this specific type of dance needs to whoop, whoop, whoop.
Right.
Nah, I have ideas that I would love to see come to life. Fuck yeah. Yeah. I think the vision that I have is me and the people I care about and came to with all sitting back one day saying, congratulations, we
Right.
made that work for each other. We did that. We had our ups, we had our downs. That was a rough 5 years from you, a rough 10 years of you, a rough 15. Nonetheless, 40 years later, we got grown ass kids and we living our life, and you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we doing our thing. You know, I think that that's the vision I have in my life right now. Like, I want to be able to, during vacation, not vacations, but the holidays, I want to be able to, rent out the Airbnb for the family and have everybody come into town and go to Tahoe and do that. You know what I mean? Just consistently, boom. If I want to go do it, I want to be able to go do it. Financially, I'm not there right now. I'm going to keep it a buck, but that's because, man, I pivoted and pivoted and pivoted and pivoted and pivoted. And every time you leave a space, you lose. Yeah, you lose a little bit, but you lose a little bit to make space for whatever is to come.
Right. For something
Yeah,
else.
you know what I mean? It's just whatever is coming hasn't come yet. And I'm
Yep.
okay with that because this is the leg work. You know what I mean? And I think that I learned that being alone.
Right. And I really want to point out the dichotomy and paradox of that is that it took solitude and being alone to get to this place of, I don't want to be alone. Because that's what it comes down to. Teamwork, relationships, a community. It comes down to having other people and being authentically connected with those other people while being genuinely yourself.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
And you gotta be able to be yourself.
Yeah. And this is where it's balance is so crucial, and you as a personality walks the fine line, because it's like, learn to be by yourself and be okay with that, and then go be around other people in a team. And those people in the team are going to challenge you, push you, grow you. But it's a symbiotic relationship. There really is no one without the other. That's why it's so funny sometimes when people get really focused and emphasis on one thing, but it's like, it's just on one thing for now, for the moment. Because that's the season that you're in. Sometimes you're in a season of like, okay, I do need to go step away from everybody, but that's just a season. It's a bit of time, because again, it's this pattern and balance of like, you need to be alone, go do yourself, focus on yourself, rely on yourself, prove that you can, and then prove that you can bring other people with you, and that you can get along with other people, and that you can have these wonderful relationships. Because achievement is, the things that what makes people happy is progress and achievement and good relationships. One without the other you're going to be pretty pissed off. If you have great relationships, you're achieving nothing, you're going to have a pretty miserable life regardless. Like, it's never fun being broke, no matter what. No matter how many people like you, it's not fun being broke.
Correct.
But if you have money and no friends, nobody wants to celebrate alone.
Correct.
So it really is the balance of both. Like, you understand it's a dichotomy. Here's the other thing. Balance is not equal. It's not fair. You sleep for like 6 to 8 hours versus the 16 to 18 hours you're awake, or however long you're awake. Like, it's not always equal. It's just what gets you back to like feeling equal.
Yeah.
And then you make more moves.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting thing. I want people to really understand that, because both are vital and necessary. It is vital that you learn to be alone so that you can not be in a relationship for the sake of being in a relationship. Because to the original question is that people are in relationships with other people, not even just dating and significant others. They have friendships or relationships with family members, regardless, with people that waste their time and that is not genuine. You're in it because you're afraid of being alone, and you don't authentically know who you are, so you're just gonna go be in a space that tolerates you, or that you can tolerate it. Mm-hmm. But that's not growth.
That was me, and bro, when I tell you, man, I made a pact with myself. Mm-hmm. Right? When I moved here to LA, I was like, I'm gonna be a better person. I don't think that I was ever a shitty person. I just think my whole life, bro, I've always been me.
Right, yeah.
And like, when I look at, when I look at my life, like, all right, so I had 2 friends in elementary school growing up, right? My first friend was really Isaiah, right? Isaiah was my first friend, Isaiah Brunson. And then around, I want to say 5th grade-ish, Christopher Tinsley came into the picture, and it was me, Isaiah, and Christopher Tinsley, right? Then we hit middle school. They started to do things that I didn't agree with. I didn't want to go do that.
Right.
Yeah. So I decided that I was going, skate and do something different. Right. And that's when I met Rick. Right. Rick is still my best friend to this day. He's my guy. Ricky Abraham. Ricky Armand Abraham. Yeah, I'm talking about full government, nigga. So what? Cuddy Rick, man. RD's Kitchen, you feel me? Tap in. My nigga. So Rick came into the picture in 7th grade because he was walking to school. We met, same little, just traffic. Hey, we started rocking with each other ever since, right? We get to high school. In high school, ninth grade. I'm going to church heavy at the time. In a youth group. We had the Hollaleezy talent show. You know what I mean? Like, our church was with it. Yeah, it was a good time, right?
Yeah.
But you see, like, I had already gone from my first group of friends to a new person.
Yep.
Yeah? And that new person, then we get into high school, and I'm doing church or whatever. Me and Rick play football together. We still boys. We live down the street from each other. We still hang out all the time. Nonetheless, when we at school, we not around each other as much. We don't got the same classes, whoopty-whoop. So then, because I dance, right, me, Terrence, and Rob start hanging out heavy, right? Rick, never not my mans, never not somebody that I hung out with. Like, that's been my mans through life since 7th grade. Nonetheless, we had a season where we wasn't hanging out as heavy due to the fact that, like, I was in dance.
Yep.
They was coming to the church house with me, and we was dancing at the church house, and we was doing the things. You feel me? But then we fast forward, and, like, my 11th grade year hit. Terrence, TR, he was already out of school. Rob was a senior, Rosebud, and I was a junior. And Terrence's little brother got robbed, right? A friend of mine's little brother got robbed. Yeah. And when that friend's brother got robbed, the 2 people that I hung out with all the time decided that they no longer wanted to be my friend because I wasn't willing to jump in the car with a third-party person whose name I don't want to use because I don't know where he at and what kind of year.
They were upset that you didn't want to
I didn't want to hop in the car and go shoot guns.
Right.
So I said, nah, I'm good. My excuse was, nah, I'm going to stay here with moms and sis and I'm solid.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm cool. It's not really what I want to do. My mom always raised me. My father and my mom always raised me like, if shit going south, nigga, get off the ship.
Right.
Yeah, like loyalty can be the thing that kills you, or loyalty can be the thing that saves you. Be loyal to yourself before you loyal to anyone else.
Right.
And if they doing something that's damaging to you, nigga, move.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that might not be the street code and whoopty whoop, but it is what it is.
Right.
Right. In business, it's a little different. If we going down, we going all the way down together. Nonetheless, we gonna talk about us going down, and we gonna figure out if there's a way for us to get out.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, how do we save whatever it is we're doing?
Yep.
If we can't save whatever we're doing, how do we get out and both of us still have a positive foot forward?
Right.
Yeah. I'm not gonna just jump ship, right? Like that's not. I've worked for companies and done that, but that's because I felt like I was heavily disrespected. And once I'm disrespected and I'm working for a company and they're making more money off of me than I'm making from them, I'm out. But I'm not in business ship with them. I'm in employee ship.
Right.
Yeah, I'm an employee, so as an employee, I don't hold that to the same because you're not respecting me as 50-50 profit.
Right.
You know? Anyway, so Christopher and Isaiah, and then Ricky, and then Terrence and Rob. Then Terrence and Rob fall off, and then I get back with Rick, and me and Rick are hanging out heavy with this kid named Anthony. Then Anthony gets shot in the back of the head, and Anthony dies. Right? Like, so I just have had a repetitive theme of like friends here, friends gone, friends here, friends gone, friends here, friends gone. And it kind of just continued throughout my life because then you have multiple people that either go to jail or you feel me like die or all of these things. And then you move into the industry and everybody is your friend while you're on the job. And then as soon as you leave the job, it's up to you to make sure that those friendships continue. Not saying that they're not your friend, but it's up to you to make sure those friendships continue.
Right.
But because I've always been all right saying like, all right, I got to pivot and go. I've always just pivoted and gone.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So you're not building anything else furthermore.
I'm now in a space where I want to stop the pivoting.
Right.
Yeah?
Right.
I want to stand in one space and make moves.
Yeah.
I want to stop the pivoting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Which means I got to put good people around me. Yeah? So yeah, bro, like, I think that that's been the reoccurring theme for me. And I think that that also made me okay with being alone really early. And I think that when I moved to LA, I was willing to be influenced because I wanted to grow.
Right.
And that influence took me further away from my instinct.
Right.
Yeah, allowing myself the influence of who was around me took me away from my instinct because I second guessed the instinct and listened to the influence because they were in a higher space than I was.
Right.
Just to realize that the information that they let's keep it going. The information that they inserted in me, yeah, since we keeping the that information further isolated myself from self, yeah. And that was the lonely I wasn't okay with.
Right.
I found it very easy to be away from people. I found it very hard to be away from self because you have to realize that you're not with you.
Right.
And once you get cloudy from the influence, it's very hard for you to have self-intimacy.
Oh, for sure.
And self-intimacy is just close relationship with self.
Right. And that goes back to having clarity.
Yeah.
Like, you go away from yourself, you go away from your beliefs and your values, you lose clarity, and that's a very scary space. It's like you're walking around in fog. You don't know where you're walking.
You know what I find difficult is now reasserting myself.
Reasserting yourself? Mm-hmm. Why?
Me looking to reassert myself puts me back in a space of needing to have conflict regularly with the version of me that's the good guy. So I am in constant conflict with self right now on choosing the decision that best fulfills me,
right?
Even if that's not the best outcome for the situation when it's given both parties.
Right.
Because the good guy cares about both parties.
Right.
I care about me. Because if I care about me, I'm able to pour into others.
Right.
Yeah? So it's not about me being selfish. It is about me being selfish enough to be able to be selfless.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Because that's the paradox everyone needs to understand. You have to be selfish enough to be selfless.
Because if I allow you to drain me, I can't pour into anyone else. So I have to be selfish enough to reassert myself. Now, when I do reassert myself, I battle what I've been told throughout my 20s about your delivery, and I battle what I've done throughout my 20s by people pleasing. Right? And I think sometimes that delivery, I can't worry about how it come across. I gotta do, because don't nobody take the time out to worry about how it come across to me. And if they do, I tell them to tell it to me raw, because I can hear people thinking, and I'm like, just give it to me. You know what I mean? Like, hey, what? You know what I mean? Like, I'm strong enough to deal with whatever comes with that word. Yeah. So what? Yeah. And I think they say treat people the way you want to be treated. So the whole time that I was here moving and grooving and people thought that I had a hard delivery, it was me just really saying, like, that's how I want to be treated. I would like for people to just keep it a buck with me and just say what they got to say.
Right.
Yeah. Now, I got to be careful with that on the internet, because then comments are going to go crazy. You know what I mean? Nonetheless, I think sometimes we get wrapped up in that. Yeah, we all want to be applauded at times, but sometimes I got to get it, like, somebody got to smack me over the head with the truth. You know, you being lazy, you being this, you being that, you being this. But always, always people are like, offer yourself grace. How much grace can a man offer himself before he got to stop offering himself grace and get fucking busy?
Right. Again, it's whatever moves you forward towards the goal. I think the question then turns into, is this serving me? Is this serving me in the way that allows me to go step into whoever I am or whatever it is I want to do? Because that's all the other shit that we do, the distractions and whether in porn and people and places, like, that's all the fact that we lack clarity and we're not being who we need to be. But to the question is, like, use whatever you need to use. Some people need to give themselves grace, because if they're too negative on themselves, they won't get any better. They just keep themselves in that same cycle, in that place where I'm a piece of shit, and they won't grow from that. But at the same time, like, to your point, if all they do is give themselves grace for all the mess ups and they never take anything hard and they don't have any regret from that or remorse or any kind of consequence that they feel from it, then they're not going to grow either.
Yeah.
Like, the unfortunate thing is adversity and pain is necessary. Like, it really is. To your point, as you have to, like, kind of earn the comfort. And a lot of us get to a place where we do things that just make us feel comfortable, and then in that comfort, we no longer try.
Yeah.
But you have to work hard to get to that level of, like, oh, now I can really just sit back and breathe and relax because I've done the things that I needed to do as a human being in society to
Create this space.
To create this space, to live in this peace and have this harmony around my world, to formulate the world like the main character I want to be. Like, it takes all that.
Yeah. I think one thing that I lacked knowing was people's ebbs and flows.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
you know, like, I didn't, like, you don't know.
Right.
So, like, it looked like Denzel always been Denzel. Yeah, it looked like you see somebody that is at the top, right? Like Omari Hardwick.
Yeah.
I watched Omari Hardwick for years before Power came out. We talking about, bro, take it back, next day air, all of the things. Like,
Right.
I always remember, he's light skinned, he got a beard. Like, of course, like, you find yourself in people when
Yeah.
you're a human, right?
Yeah.
Like, we like this character because we see something about that character that reminds ourselves of us. He's light skinned, he got a beard, and he's a little more aggressive than the average light skinned guy who's on camera, and it's always yeah. You feel me? So I took to that.
Right.
Yeah. So I've known about him for years. I never knew his ebbs and flows until the Pivot podcast and maybe 2 interviews prior to that, where he talked about situations where, Tyler Perry really helped him out financially, and where he was, and that his wife ain't never really left his side, no matter how hard the road got or the financial situation when it came to Power, and how he's a household name, but he's not really making that household money until ... You know what I mean? But he leveraged himself with power, and it opened up so many more opportunities. And he was able, he took a loan from 50, paid him back with interest. You know what I mean? Like, these are things, these are qualities, these are things that we should emulate. I think that knowing more about those ebbs and flows allows us the spiritual wherewithal to start to emulate those qualities. I can't emulate good qualities until I'm starting to have a better situation. But sometimes hearing about other people go through what I haven't gone through yet, or going through life as I go through it, allows me the spiritual wherewithal to make better decisions.
Right, because at the end of the day, it's understanding that even though the environment is the environment, you still have power over yourself, in which case that it influences the environment. Sometimes your environment is out of your control.
Boom.
You know?
Yeah.
But the ebbs and flows, like, yeah, and that's, again, it all comes down to the game of awareness, being proactive about the reactions, understanding how to respond, understanding when to give it grace, when to accelerate. Like, I think one person asked me a similar question, is like, well, how do I know to just keep trying, or to give up on something, or that it's done? And I'm like, I think once you can reflect with yourself, did I put a valid effort in? My attitude may have been off, maybe my energy was off, okay, but I did put an effort in. Okay, next day let me try doing the thing with effort, hopefully maybe change my attitude and get the energy. Like, I think the effort is necessary, because the effort allows you to know where to go from there. You tried, man, I'm not fucking feeling it today. You tried, and sometimes it takes getting into it for you to, sometimes it takes doing the actual task in order for you to actually get into that ebbs and flow of it, because how you felt prior to it wasn't it. So it takes, I do think there's a level of genuine effort first that you can then gauge, okay, maybe I need to take a break because I'm trying a lot and nothing is coming out how I wanted to or how it's going. So we tried today.
Boom.
Tomorrow I'll try again.
Boom. I would love, throw out a word, the most 3 sentences for whatever your reaction is. I'll throw out a word, your 3 sentences, you throw out a word, my 3 sentences.
Okay.
Yeah, rapid fire. Identity.
Identity is both very fragile and very strong. Identity is fluid.
Yours or in life?
In life.
Okay.
In life.
Just want to clear that up for you.
I think that's why I haven't had such a problem with my life and identity, is that I refuse to allow it to be fluid. My identity was very much, I am Shaboobs, the dancer, choreographer, creator, teacher. Like, it was very much this route. The paradox is that I saw myself able to do all these other things as a screenwriter, director, cinematographer, whatever other field is, presenter, host. I saw myself able to do all those things from the lens of first Shaboobs as the choreographer, dancer, director. And when I stopped doing and being that, my identity was kind of lost, and I felt very lost for a long time, because the identity was so, as expansive as it was very limited, that if I'm not doing these things, then I'm not able to do the rest of those things. Mm-hmm. So I've learned to understand now that identity is fluid. And I guess the last thing I would say is that in that fluid is evolution.
So,
because it's going to grow, it's going to change, just like the values and the balance and what matters to people, they gradually change over time.
okay, next word. Pineapple.
Sweet, delicious. I don't put it on my pizza. Yeah.
Okay, next word. Future.
Future is such in the eyes of the person. Your perspective really shapes your future. If you're negative, you're going to see negative. If you're positive and hopeful, then ideally you make moves and take actions that lead to a positive and hopeful outcome. But the future is always capable of being shaped by what you do today, based off what you learned from yesterday. Patience. First word is patience.
One, I knew a girl named Patience. Two, you never actually achieve it. You can always be more patient. So you never actually achieve patience.
Yeah.
You can always be more patient. So I think life's game is more so each time you encounter a situation that requires patience, can you hold yourself to be at a greater standard of patience?
Right.
Instead of, I either have it or I don't. I think it's on a scale. If we're going to live life in this fluid world where everything in the world is fluid, I think that our emotions are as well.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that it's up to us to say how much we let move us where. Yeah, so that's how I feel about patience. I also think when I hear the word, I just think of the hospital.
Right.
Yeah.
Intention.
Intention. Well, that's crazy. So the first thing that I think when I hear the word intention are what are yours? That's the first thing that I think, which is something that I'm working on.
It's not a bad
It's
thing.
good.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, sometimes you should just enter things without even thinking about it. Just F it, you know. So that's one thing about intention. The other one is you cannot create discipline without intention. It's impossible. It is impossible. You can have a regimented routine. That doesn't mean you're disciplined. Yeah, discipline is only created because you have intention. You have to be disciplined about something, and that thing is what you're placing your intention on.
Right.
So I think that we, as human beings, as men, should focus less on if we are or are not disciplined and more on if we're in tune with our intention. Because once we're in tune with our intention, we can create a routine that leads to the levels of discipline that gets us where we need to be.
Yeah.
But our anchor, you throw the anchor off the side of the ship, that ship is only going to stay there if it has intention. That anchor is the intention. Set the intention. Right. And no matter where the water blows the ship, it's always going to come right back to where it's anchored. Yeah. And that's where the intention is at. Yeah. So even if the waves are going crazy, that's when you don't have discipline.
Right.
Yeah. You still anchored because of your intention. So life could be hitting you and hitting you and hitting you. Yeah. And then as soon as the waves slow down, you didn't stray too far off from where you were supposed to be. Right. Because you had an intention. Yeah. So that's how I feel about intention. And a third thing is, I think the only way to enter into a successful relationship, whether it be business, a partner for life, friendships, any of the things, is to know your own intention. What is your intention in having this person around you? Right. Is your intention pure? Is your intention self-serving? You know what I mean? Right. Or have you set yourself, and if it is self-serving, that's you. That's who you are. Yeah. I just strive to, like I said earlier, build teams of individuals at this point in my life where, like, we sit back later. So I think the intention is more so like, I only want people that I can intentionally have around me for who they are. Right. Okay. Not what they can service me with. Right.
Well, with that, so how about relationships?
Relationships. Fuck them. No.
Exactly.
Relationships. When it comes to, like, for myself, let's be honest, I've always had a negative relationship with men. Always had a negative relationship with men. I think it's due to a lot of trauma that took place at the hands of men when I was a child. And I'm not talking about abuse in like the fighting physical form, just other styles of abuse. Yes. I think when you grow up in an underserved community, your biggest fear are other men. Yeah, whether they be the dude that's strung out on drugs, the drug dealer, the guy that wants to be the drug dealer, the neighborhood bully, the just other men. Yeah, and you're always in competition with other men. So it's hard to, I build a relationship best with people I can talk shit with. Yeah. If I can't talk shit with you, I don't know really how to build relationship because, fuck. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, like shit talk is my downtime. Yeah. Everything else can be about stuff. Shit talk is my downtime. You know, so I want to be around people who I can, you know, have shit talk with. And I think that when I moved here to LA, there was a fine line between what people were okay with and the level of shit talk in which I like to partake in.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's different for LA people.
Yeah. So that's one aspect of relationship. I am now though reaching out to men to like try to harness a better relationship with men. I'm being very intentional about having the discipline of, hey, I want strong men around me. Yeah. But also trying to have the discernment in which men that are around me are using me instead of utilizing me. Yeah. Relationship with women when it comes to like love and all of that, that's a complicated situation. I think based off traumas that took place to me when I was young by a man, I've had a very flawed relationship with intimacy. And I think that for a while I leaned to porn to keep me from going out and having false pleasures. And I think leaning into porn created a vice there. And then I had to rework that and figure that vice out and how to get out of that. And I think what it did was cloud my vision or my idea of what I want in a partner for life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know all the things that it takes to be able to be partners with somebody, but I don't know what it is that I want out of my partner. And I think that's because I've had false pleasure and pornography and other things that gave me a skewed vision on what I deserve.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if I'm feeding myself stuff like pornography on a regular basis, I don't deserve much because I'm not treating my vessel properly in order for me to deserve more.
Yeah.
So I think that in order for me to have a proper relationship with a woman, I have to first have a great relationship with self.
Yeah.
So I think that when it comes to relationship with women in particular, I first need to have a great relationship with self.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that takes us back to being afraid to be alone, or are you lonely?
Right.
That takes us to the isolation, solitude,
Right.
all of that. Yeah. And I think,
It's all symbiotic. It's all interdependent.
If you can't have a great relationship with you, she'll never respect you, because there's times where you have to stand on your word, and it might hurt in the moment and you might have an argument in the moment, but by standing on your word, she at least knows that you're going to stand for something. And I think that it's very important that your woman knows that you stand for something.
Absolutely.
I think it's very important, because at the end of the day, they want you to stand for them. And if you can't stand for yourself, you're not going to stand for them.
Definitely
So
not.
I think that a great relationship with self builds the opportunity to create a great relationship with other. And I think the third one is they come and they go. They come and they go. You have to go through bad ones in order to respect and love the good ones.
Yep.
You never know what love is until love is lost.
Yep. You also never know what love is until love is found. You have to discover that for yourself.
I haven't yet.
That's the
reason I say lost is because I've gone through more lost than find.
Right.
Yeah. I found a great deal of love for myself, but I've lost a lot of people that I love. Yeah. And in doing so, I've learned even in that, like when I lose the people I love, I didn't lose them entirely. I just have to build a new relationship with that entity in my life.
Yeah.
And that comes down to like having a better relationship with myself because I have to know what I believe.
Right.
If I don't know what I believe, I can't create a relationship with the spiritual being my brother now is.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
So like, yeah. I think that I lost so many friends due to like gun violence, car crashes, dumb shit growing up, or people that I knew. Not even everybody just close friends. It still affects you though. Like if it's this person after that person after this person after that person, and you know them, you're close to them, you see them at the party, you see them at the mall, you see them at the places. Yeah, and like y'all talk all of the things. Once a lot of those start to happen, I think you value relationship less.
Mm.
Because even when you put so much love and care into a person, somebody else can walk into the store and blam they ass. And all of that relationship that you built is gone because somebody else blam they ass.
Right.
So you almost respect relationship less because it's like it don't matter how much I pour into this relationship because I might never fucking reap the dividends. Nonetheless, that's all perspective, right? And I
Right.
think that that's what happened to me. And I think that I'm still in a place of pulling myself out of that mind frame.
Yep.
To
No,
keep it 100% real with you.
I feel that.
Yeah.